Hello, Ron. Good to see you here today.
Hi, Chris. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Good. So, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us, who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about what kind of artist you are.
Okay, great. Well, I'm Ron Yellen. I'm a self-taught artist. I work from my home studio in Bedford, which is a cosmopolitan riverside market town about an hour north of London.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know it well. Actually, I've got a couple of friends there. So you mentioned a little bit there about your workspace, which is interesting. So tell me a little bit about. So you've got a home studio. So tell me a bit about your studio, and how you work? Do you work entirely in there? Do you go out for inspiration? Do you still do some work outdoors and bring it back in, or how do you use? What does your work space look like?
Well, I've chosen to work in acrylic paint.
Yeah.
So I'm a visual artist, and mainly because I'm too impatient for oils. And working from home, oils are not so great either from the point of view of the fumes and disposal, but also the fact that it takes so long to dry. And if you're working with multiple layers, a piece of work can take a lot of time, and you have to work on a lot of pieces at once. And I'm the kind of person who wants to focus on one thing at a time in sequence. It's my personality.
Yeah.
So acrylics suit me well. Plus, I love the brightness of the colors and the variety of effects. A lot of my work thus far has been pretty much using the solid color nature of acrylics. So that's kind of a defining characteristic. The exhibition here is, in some senses, a retrospective of that work. Going forward, looking at the characteristics of some of the new acrylics that lend themselves to beautiful, more transparent effects, which is something I want to explore. So, as an artist that is artists are constantly evolving, and my aim is to develop more about what is going to be my particular style going forward.
Yeah, nice. And have you in your home studio? So you mentioned it's a different type of process. So how long will it take you to you concentrate on one piece at a time? How long is it typically to create a piece of yours that you make?
Well, the conceptual stuff goes on all the time, but it could be 8 weeks, maybe 40 hours or something.
Wow.
But and some pieces are quite quick.
Yeah.
But there are other artists with other styles where they can produce work in a matter of half an hour, and the looseness is the attraction of what they do.
Wow.
My style's pretty defined and planned out, so it just it takes it takes as long as it takes.
Yeah, great. But typically it might be but it's several weeks though, not several hours. So good. Okay, well, why don't we have a look at some of your work now? So we've got a couple of pieces here to talk through. So I know a little bit about this piece because I've seen you talk about this before. About some inspiration from your workplace where you were working in the 80s. So talk me through this piece and where it came from.
Okay, well, look, some of my artworks are experiential, and by that I mean simply based on emotions and feelings from my own life and experience. And some of my other work is more of a reimagining of existing works that people might even know.
Yeah.
But with my own personal twist. And I brought to you an example of both of those today. So this one is called Rainy Night. It's a personal project I did just for myself. It's acrylic painting on a stretched canvas.
Yeah.
And it is reminiscent of the feelings that I experienced when I first moved to Cambridge after leaving London, and was away from home during the week. My first floor office looked out onto Regent Street, and although it's not a literal depiction of that street, it evokes the atmosphere of those times. Cambridge is, in the winter time, is quite a damp city. And the painting captures some of the melancholy of wet winter evenings in a pretty much deserted city centre. It's not the bustling place it is in the summer.
No.
And in the image, I put a couple of romantic figures that lingering outside a restaurant, and I suppose I am in the place of the observer here.
Oh, yeah.
So this is there's some technical experimentation in this work for me. It's a street scene effectively with one vanishing point, and I did this piece when I was at in an 8-week period over at the South Bank Art Centre in Bedford College, and it's reminiscent of a style of a fairly popular Russian and Israeli impressionistic artist who worked exclusively with palette, knives, and oils. And but I tried to use acrylics and brushes only, and translate the overall mood to be much more of an English scene than a generic continental one.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed working with the reflections and the dabs of colour to create a kind of bokeh effect that photographers beloved. And I put these ornate lamps in, which are quite a characteristic feature of the riverside around Bedford.
Yes. Oh, I see. That's where it came from. So that's nice. So and the thing that struck me when I first looked at it is as you mentioned, those reflections from the rain there, and that I think is that for me was what brought the scene to life. Really, it's suddenly you can immediately tell that it's obviously that it's raining, and then the two scenes, you've got the couple there in the far distance, and in the near there's a kind of a lonely figure in the foreground, which was what the first figure that I noticed when I looked at the painting.
Yeah, could do with some more urban scenes, I think, with some vehicles and so forth. I'm quite encouraged to explore that.
To do that.
But yeah, so a fairly chocolate boxy, pretty picture, but with a personal angle to it.
With a personal angle because of your reminiscence from, I suppose, the contrast between Regent Street and Cambridge, essentially, is what you were.
Regent Street is in Cambridge.
Oh, Regent Street in Cambridge. Oh, right. So I thought you said Regent Street in London. Yeah. Okay. So good. Okay. Well, let's have a look at another of your pieces now, which is very different. And again, this is, I think, one of the first ones I saw of yours when I first started to look at your work.
This is this is quite a different kettle of fish. This is called Optimism and Pessimism. It takes its name from a work by Giacomo Balla, an Italian futurist who produced a painting of a similar name. But it's quite it tackles a similar issue, but it's quite different in the way I portrayed the shapes. The work is about the duality of emotions, the interaction of opposite emotions, and it's based on experience. I don't know if you've ever felt really surprised or optimistic, but at the same time worried whether that optimism was well founded. But the observation is that you can have both present at the same time. You may be a glass half full person characteristically, but on any particular occasion, you may be worried that it might not last.
Yeah, and I suppose imposter syndrome is that kind of thing down to a T.
That's a good example. This painting has resonated quite well with people in the investment world and trading, which is another passion of mine. And it could apply equally to the cycle of the fear of missing out and greed and hubris.
Yeah. Or
it could relate to the inner voice of an underdog who's enjoying uncharacteristic success. I support a football team that is rarely in the headlines, but when it did have a very successful period, the idea that it wouldn't last was not very far beneath the surface.
So tell me which football team that is, Ron. Tell me which football team that is.
It's Leyton Orient.
Leyton Orient. Okay, fine.
Yeah. So interestingly, this was painted after a playoff final in which my team was 2-0 up at half time and lost on penalties. And that started a number of years of decline. That was the pinnacle of success. And so the work captures some of the excitement and colour and emotions shared by 43,000 people at a precise moment on the 25th of May, 2014.
Yeah, wow.
And the ensuing 6 years that followed, people will know perhaps what that brought. But the main thing is that the bright colours and the geometric pattern evokes a jubilant day or a festival. So I've chosen bright colours compared to Bala's more focus on air, speed and light. His painting is predominantly blue and fairly washed out. So spirits are elevated and hopes are high. And the painting shows caustic talons of pessimism thrusting out to invade a sea of soft waves, if you will, and positive swoops of optimism. But there's a strange sense of unease that it may not last.
Yeah.
The two states don't exist in isolation, is my thesis. They interact, they intersect, and they influence each other.
So I would say that's probably an emotion that people feel quite often, actually. Is that exactly in the middle? They're neither one or the other, and they're probably feeling both emotions simultaneously.
I enjoyed making this piece. I used some of the concepts of mathematics, of the golden section, in coming up with spirals and so forth.
Yeah. And how big is this this piece? What's
20 inches by 30 inches, so it's an unusual proportion. Most of my work is around that sort of size. This what I would say was a medium-sized painting.
Medium, brilliant. Okay, so talk again there. So we've been in the we've had the Artocalipse going for a few weeks now. So what is it that attracts you about the Artocalipse?
Well, for artists who are emerging and unrepresented, there aren't many opportunities to share your work and get direct feedback. Even if you are exhibiting through a gallery or a third party or online, you may not even know who your clients are. And I've got one of the motivations for me for producing artwork is that I see process as a collaborative venture between the creator and the viewer. I don't see it as a purely passive role for the people who look at art. And so being able to talk to someone about the impact an image has on them, or what and why, it kind of completes the circle, and that's where the joy comes. So Artocalypse is great because it gives an opportunity to engage with people directly about things that they may have not thought about before, and also the chance to rub shoulders with people who are creative across a whole range of different genres and art forms in one place, all with energy. So I think that's great.
I think it's the energy that has bowled me over in the last few weeks, and the diversity of we've got someone who's just joined who is a melted wax artist. You know, we've got acrylics and yourself. We've got poets. We've got actors. We've got all kinds of creative energy coming together at the moment.
And particularly, I mean, given this year has been such a washout, it's been a focus for keeping sustainable efforts going.
Yeah, and that's what. Yeah, and I feel that as well. So yeah, so looking forward to seeing how that develops in the next few weeks. So good. All right then, Ron. Thank you very much for your time today and talking us through your work.
You're welcome. I've enjoyed it.
Great.
All the best, Chris.
Hello, Ceyda. Very nice to see you this evening.
Hello, lovely to see you too.
Fantastic. So why don't you tell me your name, where you're from, and a little bit about the art that you do?
Well, I'm a writer/student from Istanbul, Turkey. I also work in poetry, mostly poetry. And well, I've been writing since my childhood, so it's been like a really purpose to live for me.
Lovely. Now, the first thing I must ask you, of course, is how long you've been. So I've read some of your work, which we'll see in a moment, and I'm always blown away by poets anyway, and the way that you can use language. When you can use it in your second language, that's even more spectacular. So tell me first how long you've been speaking and writing English.
Well, I think I've been learning since kindergarten, like when I was 2 years old, literally.
Wow.
But I think it became this much because I was interested. You know, I watched everything in English. I read everything in English. I talked to natives and that kind of stuff. I think it just found itself inside me.
Wow. And but clearly you love language and words, which we'll see in a moment. And there's a big difference between learning a language for utility purposes and then just taking it further and using it to express poetry. And is this something that you did in English, or you mostly do in English, or do you do also in Turkish?
Well, I write in Turkish too, but for a few months I haven't been writing in Turkish. I have some few published poems in Turkish as well. And I publish my work, the English ones, in my own website called The Marayon.
Perfect. So we always ask a little bit about the workspace. Now, for a poet, that can be slightly different from a painter. But tell me a little bit about the workspace that you need when you want to sit down and create something. How are you doing this, and where are you doing it?
Well, I think I literally black out. Like, there's this board image that you'll see, like it's all filled with heartbeats and like literally chest pounding over. It's all black and sketchy, colorful. It seems so complicated, but most times I don't remember how I write things. I just get into it and black out, and that's that.
Wow. And
that I wake up and that it's all there.
An amazing piece in front of you. Right, well, that's great. Well, let's look at a couple of these now. So what we're going to do is switch across to a couple of your poems. So first of all, just tell me a little bit about what inspires. You have very different styles of your poems, are different, they have different subjects and tempos, and even just styles and complexity as well. So just tell me a little bit about these two that you've written.
Okay. So I think that being self is really important. And I think, like, whatever it may contain, humanity must embrace that self in order to feel whole. So mastery do new means new as in nudity, like in Renaissance art.
Yeah.
So it's like the mastery of nudity, but nudity of your own self. So it's about literally embracing all the shadows, all the light, all the colors in your mind, and just I think it's liberating. And crystallization is also about that. It's crystallizing yourself, your pieces of self, and getting them, bringing them together without judging any of them, because they're all a part of you and they create you. And it's like tearing yourself apart if you just like leave one out. The picture is not whole.
Yeah. Wow. So, and how long would it take you to write these poems?
I don't know. Like, as I said, I black out, but it really changed. Sometimes 15 minutes, sometimes like I wake up in between of those breaks, and I'm like, okay, so I was gone for like this minute, I don't know, for 15 minutes. And then after I like think about something, I black out again, and well, here's the stuff. I don't think I have like time sense when I'm writing these. I just get into the flow states, and I don't know, but I'm so good with focus. Like, I don't lose my focus easily unless there's something really, really important. And well, I think, yeah, it just is the process.
Wow, that's an intense approach that produces amazing. And once you've produced your work, are you publishing, like, are you happy with that then, or do you tend to tinker around with it, or do you just prefer to, once you've finished, that's the end piece?
I think I don't edit my poetry. Like, I edit my novel drafts, my essays, everything, but I don't edit my poetry because I believe that poetry is like breathing.
Wow.
You breathe, and that's that. You can suck the breath inside and you breathe again, but like it's like one breath. You just give it out or take it in, and that's that. I mean, you can't edit your breath. Okay, so I will like take the 10 seconds of breath and then stop and then take another 5 seconds. So I think that that's really the best way to express things as they are, like in real, the way I perceive them at first.
Wow, that's very authentic. Let's have a look at a couple more of your pieces here. So one of them I really love, and I haven't read the other one. So Undeservatory and Unfamiliar. Again, two very different pieces.
Well, Undeservatory is my favorite piece so far. That's because in summer I've been through like stuff that I found myself in, and I literally brought myself in, and I was like, oh, so why am I here? Because the thing is, I brought myself there. I brought myself to break apart. That was like I didn't deserve any of it, and then I was so angry, literally so angry, and then I wrote this piece. But I observed how people were in places that they didn't even deserve to be in. Like, for example, art is like invaluable, and most of the artists are like suffering or doing street art, and like businessmen are making tons of it, but they're creating dimensions and worlds, and creation is like the best art, I think, that has been ever established, and they're suffering. So it really felt unfair to me.
Yeah.
So that was the laboratory and the things, like, for example, shattered last pieces of humanity, corrupted in the ties of next generation to be. It's like all describing a chain of events that I've been observing here and there.
Yeah. Wow. I would definitely recommend everybody. And will you be exhibiting this poem in our exhibition?
Yes, definitely.
Perfect. So everyone will get a chance to read that. That's fantastic.
I'm actually working on its video poetry right now, so I'm planning that the premiere will be in the same time as the event on YouTube. So
that'll be great. Now, I was going to ask you actually about how you like your work to be performed, right? So you can either read a poem, you could recite a poem, you could recite it along with music, you could set it to images, you could do all kinds of ways, in fact, that you can present poetry. What kind of ways do you like or prefer over the other, or what do you like to experiment with in terms of how you present them?
I really like the style of video poetry because I think like that's a really nice way to hide some symbols. Like you're actually seeing some image of a forest, but I'm actually showing you that insect that's been walking around there. And that insect is actually symbolizing something in my piece that you subconsciously understand somehow.
Yeah.
So I think I'm really working on the subconscious.
On that, right? And you're putting together the video images to go with those, are you?
Yes, I have. I've been.
You are. Perfect. So, and maybe we can experiment with. So we have an actor in our Artocalipse community. I've forgotten what his name is under the handle. Anyway, he may be interested in reading some of your poems then as well to put those.
I love that.
It would be interesting to have other people reading your poems. So there's lots we can experiment with and collaborate on. So the last piece.
Yeah, I would love to see how they perceive it.
Yeah.
Like for example, you said that they looked like Bob Dylan songs, and I never thought of it. So it was like really nice.
That was and the way that I read it briefly just before we came on air, and maybe I read it in a different tempo than you would recite it, because I was reciting it in the way that it sounds like a Bob Dylan lyric to me, like if it was set to music, for example. So that's really great to explore. So the last one then, also beginning with actually. So we've undeservatory, which is a new word you made, and unfamiliar. So what's this one? What's the inspiration behind this one?
It's actually written in quarantine phase. Like we all was someone different. Like I had this phase where I felt like a stranger in my body. Like I looked at the mirror and I was like, okay, so who is this? Who is this person been doing? And like she wanted this, now she wants these, and how did it happen? I mean, how did I not realize? Was it all this way since from the beginning, or I was just so blind to the signs that I never recognized them? Or actually, I mean, I really felt unfamiliar to myself, which was really hard and hard to conceive and hard to go through. And we were like moving everything to this online place where we totally lost human connection. Like I was not allowed to touch the ones I love, or like meet with the ones I love, talk or see or anything. It was like my humanity was taken away from me in a sense. And even though I'm like an introvert person, because human connection is like the basis of humanity. We need to connect. Like this platform is wonderful in every way. And we're, as creatives, we try to stick together like all around the world. We're here and talking about this. How magnificent is that?
It's fantastic. That's really, I mean, that gives you, I was actually just going to lead into that as a topic, because that leads very nicely into the talking about our project. But just the last note on, so really unfamiliar and undeservatory are actually really talking about two sides of the same coin, really. They're looking at different aspects of humanity and how you feel about your own position in the world and everything that's going on around. So So they really go together as a pair, as do the other. So great. So what fantastic exhibits we've got to look forward to from your booth, Ceyda. So on that last point then, let's just tell me a little bit about what attracts you about the Artocalipse project.
All right. Well, actually, I love the word itself, apocalypse. And I've been into a lot of apocalyptic photography lately. Like, I've been dreaming and building about this artificial world. It felt like all science fiction, but then while I was so into this photography, I was somehow in the real apocalypse, like Artocalipse version, it's art version, and I was like, oh, so my dreams and my world came true, so it was all real. I mean, it's like reading a novel that's based on a true story, and I just read the last part based on a true story, and I'm like so glad I'm to be here.
Brilliant. That's a great story for. So I'll have to tell that. So Kimberly was the person who came up with Artocalypse as a name. So I'm going to have to relate that story. So we'll play this segment back to Kimberly so she can see the influence. That's fantastic. I mean, it's started out. It's only a very young project. We've not been going very long, and it's just fantastic the way that people are collaborating together already.
Absolutely.
We've got a lot more to do after this first exhibition. We want to keep this sustained going forward. So thank you very much.
I hope it goes worldwide. Like I hope we get to connect with like every soul in the world, every origin.
Yeah, well, we've got a good start already because we're already in several countries in the world. We've got representatives, so we have got a good base to start from. And that should be our mission, is to touch the whole world, is our mission. So fantastic. So thank you for sharing your art with us this afternoon, Ceyda, and we hope to see your work and booth in the forthcoming exhibition and see more of you in the coming weeks.
Thank you for this lovely conversation.
Okay, bye now.
Goodbye.